under the effects of the moon herb, deliberately slipped into her wine. She gave herself to a stranger that night, and woke up disgraced, now carrying a child whose father she did not know. Rejected by all, no one dares to even come near her. When an arranged marriage threatens to seal the Alpha King's fate forever, the unthinkable happens. He steps closer to her and whispers, "Pretend your baby is mine." Anna could not remember exactly when the ground had begun to sway beneath her feet. Maybe it was when the third glass of wine appeared in her hand, or when the moon climbed too high in the sky and the hall began to spin as if it were dancing on its own. She blinked slowly, trying to fix her gaze on something solid, but everything seemed blurred, warm, distant. "More wine, Lady Anna." A female voice appeared at her side. Anna turned her head slowly and found the smiling face of her half-sister Sabrina. The smile was far too sweet, far too artificial. "I think I've had enough," Anna murmured, her tongue feeling heavy. "Nonsense. It's a night of celebration." Sabrina filled Anna's glass again, pressing it toward her. "Drink. It will do you good." Anna took the glass without thinking much about it. Her body felt so warm. Maybe more wine would help. Or maybe it would make things worse. She no longer knew. The annual gathering of the Alpha Council had never been a modest occasion. It was the night when the elders convened to discuss alliances, assess bloodlines, and decide the future of the realms under the blessing of the moon. The ritual wine, consecrated with lunar herbs said to loosen reason and open the paths of destiny, flowed freely. No one questioned the excess. No one doubted it. But something was wrong. Anna lifted a hand to her forehead, feeling beads of sweat slide down her temple. The laughter of the nobles around her echoed inside her head, distorted, impossibly far away, and uncomfortably close at the same time. "I need air," she said, more to herself than to anyone else. She rose slowly, gripping the edge of the table to steady herself. Sabrina watched with that same strange smile but said nothing. Anna did not care. She just needed to get out of there. Each step felt heavier than the last, each breath harder to control. She crossed the hall unsteadily, clutching the skirt of her dress, trying not to draw attention. That was when she collided with someone. The impact made them both stagger. He grabbed her arm just as she clutched his, both of them trying to keep their balance. "Careful." His voice came out slow, deeper than it probably was. Anna lifted her eyes, and the air fled her lungs completely. The man before her was tall, absurdly tall. His shoulders were broad, the kind of presence that commanded a space without a single word. His face was angular and masculine, marked by a strong jaw and blue eyes that, even clouded, seemed to pierce straight through her. But it was not just his appearance. It was the way he looked at her, as if something in her had struck him just as powerfully as he had struck her. He blinked slowly, as though trying to focus his vision. "Are you all right?" he asked, but his own voice betrayed that he was not. Anna tried to answer, but the words tangled together. No, I don't think so." He ran a hand over his face, trying to concentrate. "This wine. There's something wrong with this wine." "You drank it too?" Anna asked, gripping his arm to keep from falling. "Too much." He let out a low, humorless laugh. "Far more than I should have." They stood there, leaning on one another, trying to stay upright. The hall spun around them, voices warped, the music echoing as if from very far away. "You need water," he said suddenly, as if he had just had a great revelation. "Water?" Anna repeated, confused. "Yes, water. A lot of it." He looked around, searching for something. "Come on. I need to get you out of here. Get myself out of here, too." He took her hand, the grip gentle, almost hesitant. They began to move together, more stumbling than truly walking. Anna leaned on him, and he leaned on her. It was almost comical, if it had not been so desperate. "Where are we going?" she asked, tripping over her own feet. Far away from this cursed hall, he murmured, holding her more firmly when she nearly fell. They climbed stairs, turned corners, crossed empty corridors. More than once they had to stop to regain their balance. More than once, Anna felt the urge to laugh at the absurdity of the situation. When they finally reached a door, he opened it with difficulty, pushing it with his shoulder. The room was large, lit only by moonlight streaming through tall windows. There was a bed in the center, and, thank the gods, a pitcher of water on a small table. "Sit," he said, guiding her to the bed. Anna let herself fall onto the mattress, her head spinning. He went to the table, took the pitcher and a cup, but his hands shook so badly that he nearly dropped everything. "Damn it," he muttered, gripping the pitcher with both hands. He filled the cup and returned to Anna, kneeling before her with some effort. When he finally steadied himself, he extended the cup toward her. "Drink. Slowly." Anna took the cup, but her hands were trembling too. She brought it to her lips and drank, feeling the cool water slide down her throat. It was the first thing that made sense all night. "More," he said, taking the cup from her hand and filling it again. While he focused on not spilling the water, Anna looked at him. Truly looked at him. Even with blurred vision, even with everything spinning, she could see how handsome he was. Without thinking, she reached out and touched his face. He froze. "You're so beautiful," Anna murmured, tracing her fingers along the line of his jaw. His eyes widened. He swallowed hard, and Anna saw his Adam's apple bob. "My lady," he said, his voice coming out rough. "Do not say something like that to me here. In this room." But Anna did not stop. Her fingers slid up into his dark tousled hair. "Why not?" "Because—" He drew a deep breath, closing his eyes for a moment. "I've had too much to drink. You've had too much to drink. And if you keep looking at me like that, I will." He did not finish the sentence. Anna leaned forward and kissed him. The kiss was hesitant at first, soft, almost shy. But when he did not pull away, when she felt his lips move against hers, something inside her broke. He pulled back abruptly, breathing hard. "No, we shouldn't. I can't." But Anna was already lost. Lost in the heat running through her veins, lost in the way he looked at her, as if she were something precious and dangerous at the same time. She pulled him back and kissed him again. This time with more intensity. This time without hesitation. "My lady," he tried to say between kisses, but his voice was weak, lacking conviction. Anna let her lips trail from the corner of his mouth, down along his jaw, to his neck. She felt his body tremble beneath her touch, felt his breathing quicken. "We will regret this," he said, but his hands were already sliding up her waist, pulling her closer. "Then so be it," Anna whispered against his skin. And that was all he needed to hear. He pulled her onto his lap, kissing her with an intensity that stole all the air from her lungs. Anna clung to him, feeling the world spin for reasons that had nothing to do with the wine. His hands were in her hair, at her waist, on her back, and hers were everywhere, trying to memorize him, trying to engrave every sensation before the night ended. The rest became a blur of touches, whispers, and heat, both lost in each other, both forgetting that this should not have been happening. When they finally fell together onto the mattress, tangled and exhausted, the last thing Anna remembered before sleep claimed her was the feeling of his fingers intertwined with hers. Morning light pierced through the windows like a sharp blade. Anna opened her eyes slowly, her head throbbing. It took a few seconds for her to realize where she was. It took a few more to realize she was not alone. Her heart stopped. There was a man beside her. Lying on his back, face turned toward the pillow, dark hair falling over his forehead. Sunlight illuminated half of his face, but not enough for her to see him clearly. Gods, what have I done? The memories came in waves. The hall, the wine, the stairs, the room, The kisses, the touches, everything. Panic. Anna sprang up, clutching the sheet to her chest. Her clothes were scattered across the floor. She dressed in a rush, her hands shaking so badly she could barely fasten her dress. She had to leave. Now. Before he woke. Before anyone saw her. She looked at him one last time. She wanted to see his face, to memorize every detail, but he remained turned away, sleeping deeply. Anna ran. The corridors were empty, thank the gods. She descended the stairs as quickly as she could, crossed the great hall, still in disarray from the night before, and finally found the exit. The cool morning air struck her face like a slap. She drew in a deep breath, but it did nothing to calm her racing heart. What did I do? Who was I with? Why can't I remember anything clearly? She had lost her honor. She had given herself to a stranger. And the worst part was that, despite the crushing weight of guilt, part of her did not regret it. When Anna finally returned to her family's quarters, she found her father seated at the breakfast table. Lord Edmund was a tall man with broad shoulders and a severe expression. Beside him, Ophelia, her stepmother, sipped tea with studied elegance. Sabrina sat across from them, idly stirring her food. Anna entered slowly, feeling every pair of eyes turned toward her. "Good morning," she said, her voice weaker than she intended. Her father did not respond immediately. He simply studied her with those penetrating eyes. "Where have you been?" he asked, his voice far too controlled. Anna felt her blood turn cold. "I went for a walk. I needed fresh air after the feast." "A walk?" Ophelia repeated, taking another sip of tea. "All night?" The tone was venomous. Sabrina smiled faintly, but said nothing. That smile made Anna's stomach twist. "I fell asleep in the gardens," Anna lied, taking a seat at the table. The air was pleasant. Her father continued to watch her for a long moment. Then, finally, he returned his attention to his plate. "I hope you conducted yourself appropriately, Anna. Our reputation depends on it." "Of course, father," she replied. But the lie weighed heavily on her tongue. The silence that followed was suffocating. On the other side of the castle, Henry woke with his head pounding. He opened his eyes slowly, the sunlight burning his vision. He ran a hand over his face, trying to remember what had happened. The annual gathering. The wine. That cursed wine. And then, a woman. The memory came in fragments. Dark hair, large eyes, a soft voice telling him he was beautiful. Her hands on his face. The kiss. The touches. Gods. Henry sat up abruptly, looking around the room. He was alone. Completely alone. But there was a scent in the air. Something delicate. Floral. He ran his hand over the sheets, still feeling a warmth that was not his. She had been here. She was real. But who? Henry rose from the bed, swaying slightly. He searched the room, looking for anything she might have left behind. A handkerchief, a brooch. Anything. Nothing. There was a knock at the door. "Enter," Henry said, his voice rougher than he intended. One of the guards stepped inside, bowing respectfully. "Your Majesty, the elders are waiting in the hall. They say it is urgent." Henry sighed, running his hands through his hair. "It is always urgent." "My lord, they wish to discuss the matter of succession." Of course. It was always the same conversation. The Alpha King needed a queen. He needed heirs. He needed to marry. But how could he marry any other woman when he could not get that unknown woman out of his mind? "Tell the elders I will be there shortly," Henry said, beginning to dress. The guard bowed and left. Henry remained alone in the room, staring out the window. His mind was still trapped in that fragmented night, trying to piece together a memory that refused to hold. Who are you? And why? Even without knowing your name, do I feel that I need to find you? He knew it was madness. One night. One unknown woman. It should have meant nothing. But it did. And he did not know why. 8 months. 8 long months since that night. Anna ran a hand over her swollen belly, feeling the baby move inside her. It was a strange sensation, comforting and terrifying at the same time. There was a life growing there. A life she had created with a man whose face she could barely remember. She was sitting in front of the mirror in her bedroom, watching her own reflection. The dress she wore was loose, made to disguise her belly, but there was no way to hide it. Not anymore. Not after 8 months. How did this happen to me? The question echoed in her mind every day, but the answer never changed. She knew exactly how it had happened. One night. One mistake. A consequence that would last forever. The memory of her father's reaction came like a blow. 3 months earlier. Anna was sitting in Lord Edmund's study, her hands trembling in her lap. She had put off that conversation for as long as she could, but there was no longer any way to hide it. Her belly was beginning to show, and soon everyone would know. "Father, I need to tell you something." Lord Edmund was seated behind his large oak desk, reviewing documents. He looked up, immediately noticing the tension in his daughter's voice. "What is it?" Anna took a deep breath. There was no easy way to say it. I am expecting a baby." The silence that followed was deafening. Lord Edmund remained completely still, as if Anna's words had not yet been processed by his mind. Then slowly, he set the quill down on the desk. "What did you say?" "I am pregnant, Father." The fury came like a storm. Lord Edmund rose so abruptly that his chair fell backward with a loud crash. His face turned red, the veins standing out in his neck. "You are pregnant." Anna shrank back, feeling tears burn her eyes. "Father, You have lost your honor," he shouted, slamming his hands onto the desk. "You gave yourself to a man without marriage, without commitment, without anything. It was a mistake. I didn't mean—" "A mistake?" He let out a bitter, humorless laugh. "You destroyed your own life with that mistake. And who is the father? Who is the wretch who did this to you?" Anna lowered her eyes, unable to answer. "I don't know." The silence returned, but this time it was worse. It was heavy with disappointment, shame, and something that felt as if it were breaking inside Anna's chest. "You don't know," Lord Edmund repeated, his voice low now, but still filled with contained rage. "You don't know who the father of your own child is. There was something in the wine. I couldn't think clearly. Don't come to me with excuses." He slammed the desk again. "You are a woman. A lady. It was your duty to protect yourself, to protect your honor." Tears finally streamed down Anna's face. "I'm sorry, Father. I truly am. Being sorry won't change anything." He ran his hands over his face, clearly trying to rein in his anger. "No nobleman will want you now. No man of worth will accept a woman carrying another man's child. You are ruined, Anna. Completely ruined." Each word was like a knife to her chest. "I know. And the worst part," he continued, his voice breaking slightly, "is that now you will have to accept whatever comes your way. If some old widower wants you out of pity or for a political alliance with our family, you will accept. Because that is the only chance you have now." Anna said nothing. There was nothing to say. Lord Edmund sat back down, suddenly looking tired. "Old. Leave my study. I need to think about how I am going to clean up the mess you have created." Anna stood, her legs shaking, and left. When she closed the door behind her, she finally allowed the sobs to escape. Anna blinked, returning to the present. The memory still hurt, even after months. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in," she said, quickly wiping her eyes. The door opened, and one of the maids entered carrying a dress in her arms. "Lady Anna, your father asked me to bring this. It's for the ball tonight." Anna looked at the dress. It was beautiful, a soft ivory color, with long sleeves and a modest neckline. But even though it was loose, she knew there was no longer any way to hide her belly. "Thank you," Anna said, taking the dress. The maid hesitated. "Milady, may I ask, are you really going to the ball?" Anna let out a humorless laugh. "Apparently, yes, my father insists. But people will talk." "People already talk," Anna replied, her voice tired. "There's nothing left I can do to make my reputation worse." The maid lowered her eyes, clearly unsure of what to say, and left the room. Anna was alone again, holding the dress against her chest. Why does he insist on taking me? What does he expect to achieve? But she knew the answer. Her father was desperate. Even if the chances were slim, he still wanted to try to find someone who would accept her. Anyone. Even if it was an old man. On the other side of the kingdom, in the main castle, Henry was in his private chamber, looking out the window at the gardens below. 32 years. He had turned 32, and the elders never stopped reminding him of it. A king needed a queen. An alpha needed a mate. The bloodline had to continue. But Henry did not want an arranged queen. He wanted to find her. 8 months, 8 cursed months since that night, and he still could not get her out of his mind. His men had searched the entire kingdom. They had asked questions, investigated, followed every lead. But nothing. It was as if she had vanished, or as if she had never existed. But she did exist. I know she did. He could still remember fragments of that night, the soft touch of her hands on his face, her voice telling him he was beautiful, the kiss that had left him completely lost, and that feeling that, for the first time in his life, he had found something worth holding on to. "Your Majesty." Henry turned, finding his most loyal friend Marcus standing in the doorway. Marcus was the commander of his personal guard, a tall, strong man with scars that told stories of past battles. But more than that, he was the only person Henry truly trusted. "Come in, Marcus." Marcus entered, closing the door behind him. His expression was serious. "The elders are growing impatient." Henry sighed. "When are they not? This time it's different." Marcus crossed his arms. "They have organized a ball. Tonight." Henry frowned. "A ball? To find a queen for you?" Marcus grimaced. "They invited more than 100 young noblewomen, all from important bloodlines." Irritation rose in Henry's chest. "They have no right to do this without my approval." "Technically they do. The Alpha Council can call social gatherings in the name of the crown, and they argued that it is for the good of the kingdom." "For the good of the kingdom," Henry repeated, his voice heavy with sarcasm. "Of course." Marcus stepped closer, his expression softening. "Henry, I know you are looking for her, but it has been 8 months. Maybe it's time to consider that—" "Don't say it," Henry interrupted, his voice firm. "Don't say that I should give up. It's not giving up. It's being realistic." Henry turned back to the window. "I made a promise to myself, Marcus. If I can't find her, I will only marry someone who makes me feel what she made me feel that night. And if that never happens, then I won't marry." Marcus sighed, clearly frustrated. "You are impossible." "I am a king. I can afford to be impossible." Marcus shook his head, but there was a small smile on his lips. "The ball is at 8 o'clock. The elders expect you to be there." "I will be," Henry said, his voice tired. "But I don't promise to be pleasant." Marcus laughed. "When are you?" He left, once again leaving Henry alone. Henry returned his gaze to the window, his thoughts still on that mysterious woman. "Where are you? And why can't I forget you?" At 7 o'clock that evening, Anna was ready. The dress fit her body well, but the belly was impossible to ignore. She had pinned her hair into a low bun, leaving a few loose strands to frame her face. There were no jewels. She saw no point in trying to impress anyone. No one would care anyway. When she went downstairs, she found her father, Ophelia, and Sabrina already waiting at the entrance. Sabrina looked stunning, as always. A dark red dress that accentuated her curves, her hair falling in perfect waves over her shoulders. Ophelia wore a green gown, with jewels glittering at her neck and wrists. The two of them looked Anna up and down, and she saw the poorly disguised disdain on their faces. "You're really going dressed like that?" Sabrina asked, her voice full of false concern. "What's wrong with my dress?" Anna replied, keeping her voice calm. "Nothing, dear," Ophelia said, smiling sweetly. "It's just, well, you look so large." The insult was clear, but Anna did not take the bait. "I am 8 months pregnant. What did you expect?" Lord Edmund cut in before Ophelia could respond. "Enough. Let's go. I don't want us to be late." They entered the carriage, and the journey to the main castle passed in silence. Anna looked out the window, watching the trees go by as her stomach churned with nerves. Why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? But she knew why. Because she had no choice. Because her father demanded it. Because her life was already ruined anyway. When they finally arrived at the castle, the light shone brightly through the windows. Music played inside, and Anna could hear voices and laughter. She took a deep breath, bracing herself for what was to come. The ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling, casting golden light over everything. Tables covered with white cloths were arranged around the room, filled with food and wine. In the center, couples danced to the sound of an orchestra. And there were women, many women, young, beautiful, all dressed in their finest attire, all with their eyes fixed on a single man. The Alpha King. Henry stood near the throne, surrounded by elders and nobles who spoke without pause. He looked bored, his face a mask of polite indifference. But Anna noticed the tension in his shoulders, the way his blue eyes swept the room as if searching for an escape. So this is the Alpha King. She had never seen him so closely before. Although she had been in places he had passed through, the Alpha King always appeared surrounded by advisors, guards, and nobles. Distant, untouchable. Approaching him was unthinkable. Still, the stories reached her. Whispers about his relentless strength, his unquestioned leadership, and his stubborn refusal to take a wife, as if no bond were worthy of containing him. He was tall, very tall, with broad shoulders and a presence that dominated the space. Dark hair fell lightly over his forehead, and even from a distance Anna could see the intensity in his eyes. Something inside her stirred, something strange, like a recognition that made no sense. "Come, Anna," her father said, guiding her to a table in the corner of the hall. It was far from the center, far from the action, far from anything important. Sabrina, on the other hand, went straight to the center of the ballroom, joining the other young noblewomen already surrounding the king. Anna sat alone at the table, watching everything from afar. And then it began. The looks, the whispers, the muffled laughter. That's her. The one who's pregnant. Who's the father? No one knows. They say she doesn't even know. How shameful. What is she doing here? Her father is probably trying to match her with some desperate old man. The words reached Anna like arrows, each one hitting its mark. She kept her eyes down, her hands resting on her belly, trying to make herself invisible. Why did I come? Why did I agree to this? Tears threatened to rise, but she forced them back. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of all these people. On the other side of the hall, Henry was growing increasingly irritated. Another young noblewoman had approached, smiling sweetly, fluttering her lashes excessively. "Your Majesty, it is an honor to be in your presence," she said, making an elaborate curtsy that revealed more cleavage than was appropriate. Henry merely nodded, saying nothing. The young woman waited for a reaction, but when none came, She finally stepped away, visibly disappointed. Ophelia observed everything from a distance, her calculating eyes assessing every movement of the king. She leaned toward Sabrina, whispering something in her ear. Sabrina nodded, adjusting the neckline of her red dress before beginning to walk toward Henry. She approached with measured steps, a seductive smile on her lips. "Your Majesty," she said, her voice low and smooth, making a curtsy that revealed even more than the others had dared. "What a joy to finally have you among us. It must be so exhausting to always be surrounded by responsibilities." Henry glanced at her briefly, his face a mask of indifference. "Lady?" "Sabrina," she supplied, taking another step closer. "And I was thinking you might need some company. Someone who understands the weight you carry." She lightly touched his arm, her fingers sliding over the fabric of his tunic. Henry looked at her hand on his arm, then back at her face. His blue eyes were cold. "I appreciate the concern, Lady Sabrina," he said, his voice sharp. "But I do not require company at the moment." He deliberately stepped away, causing her hand to fall. Sabrina tried to hide the humiliation, but the flush on her cheeks betrayed her. She returned to Ophelia, who looked at her with barely concealed disapproval. "Your Majesty, you must at least try," one of the elders said beside him. "These young women came from far away to meet you." "I did not ask them to come," Henry replied, his voice cold. "But they are here, and the kingdom needs a queen." Henry was about to respond when he heard voices nearby, two women speaking in low tones, but not low enough. "Did you see? Lady Anna is here." "The one who's pregnant? The shameless one?" "Yes. I don't know what her father was thinking, bringing her. No one will want her. I heard she doesn't even know who the father is. She probably slept with several men." What a scandal. She ruined her own life. Something tightened inside Henry. He looked toward the voices and saw two older women, clearly gossiping. Then he followed their gaze to a table in the corner of the hall. And he saw her. A young woman sitting alone, wearing a simple ivory dress, her hands resting on a visibly pregnant belly. Her hair was dark as night, pinned into a low bun with loose strands, and even from a distance, Henry could see the vulnerability in her posture. She was being completely ignored. No one approached her, no one spoke to her. He did not know why, but something about that scene disturbed him deeply. Perhaps it was the injustice. Perhaps it was the cruelty of the gossip. Or perhaps it was something more. Without thinking too much, Henry began to cross the hall. Marcus appeared at his side immediately. "Where are you going?" "To do something that should have been done a long time ago," Henry replied. He walked straight to the table in the corner, ignoring the surprised looks of the nobles around him. Anna was looking down when a shadow fell over her. She slowly lifted her eyes and froze. The Alpha King stood before her. His blue eyes studied her with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe. Then he leaned slightly closer, close enough that only she could hear. "Pretend your baby is mine," he whispered. Anna blinked, certain she had heard wrong. "What?" Henry stepped back just a little, but kept his eyes locked on hers. "You heard me?" And then he extended his hand. "Come with me. Now." Anna stared at the king's outstretched hand as if it were an illusion. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Is he talking to me? The Alpha King is talking to me?" She began, but the words died in her throat. Henry tilted his head slightly, his blue eyes never leaving hers. "Trust me," he said, his voice low but firm. "Please." There was something in that voice, something that made her feel that somehow she could trust him, even without understanding, even without knowing why. Anna placed her hand in his fingers closed around hers, steady and warm, and he helped her to her feet. The entire ballroom seemed to freeze. Every conversation stopped. Every gaze turned to them. The Alpha King was holding the pregnant woman's hand. The whispers started immediately, but Henry ignored them, He guided Anna through the room, keeping her close, his grip firm around her hand. Anna felt her legs tremble with every step. She could feel the stairs drilling into her back. She could hear the whispers growing louder. "Where are we going?" she managed to ask, her voice barely coming out. "Somewhere we can talk," Henry replied without looking back. They crossed the ballroom, passing shocked nobles, confused elders, and young women wearing expressions of pure envy and anger. Anna caught sight of Sabrina out of the corner of her eye, her face twisted in a mix of shock and fury. Henry led her down a side corridor, away from the crowd, until they reached a dark wooden door. He opened it and pulled Anna inside. It was a private room, clearly an office. A large desk stood in the center. Bookshelves lined the walls, and a lit fireplace cast dancing shadows across the room. Henry closed the door behind them and finally let go of her hand. Anna took a step back, instinctively wrapping her arms around her belly, trying to process what had just happened. "Why did you do that?" she asked, her voice coming out shaky. Henry turned to face her, leaning back against the desk. "Because you needed help, and because I need a favor." Anna blinked, confused. "A favor? From me?" "Yes." He folded his arms, studying her with those piercing eyes. "What is your name?" "Anna. Lady Anna." "Lady Anna," he repeated, as though tasting the name on his tongue. "How many months along are you?" Anna felt her face heat. 8 months. Henry nodded, as if calculating something. "And the father?" The question landed like a blow. Anna lowered her gaze, shame tightening around her throat. "I don't know who he is." Silence. When she finally found the courage to look up again, she expected to see judgment on his face. But there was none. Only something that looked like understanding. Henry ran a hand through his hair, letting out a long breath. "I can only imagine how hard this has been for you," he said, his voice softer now. Anna didn't know what to say. She hadn't expected empathy. Not from the Alpha King. Henry pushed away from the desk and walked slowly to the window, as if he needed a moment to think. "The elders have been pressuring me to marry, for months. They organized this ridiculous ball to force me to choose a wife." "And what does that have to do with me?" Anna asked, still confused. Henry turned to face her again. "I don't want to marry any of those women out there. I don't want an arranged queen, chosen by bloodlines or political alliances." "Then, why don't you simply refuse?" "Because they won't accept a refusal. Not this time." He took a step toward her. "Not unless I have a compelling reason." Anna began to understand. "You want me to pretend that the baby is yours?" "Yes. But why? That doesn't make sense. You could choose any one of those women and—" "I don't want any one of those women," Henry cut in, his voice firm. "There's someone I'm looking for, and until I find her, I won't marry anyone else." Something strange tightened in Anna's chest. "He's looking for someone." "Who?" "But if you say the baby is yours," Anna said slowly, "the elders will demand that you marry me." "Exactly. And that will buy me time. Time to find her." He took another step closer. "I can drag out the engagement for months. I can invent excuses, postpone the ceremony. And in the meantime, I keep searching." Anna shook her head, still processing. "But what do I get out of this? When you find this woman, what happens to me?" Henry stopped in front of her, so close now that Anna had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. "You will get everything you need. A home to raise your child, away from gossip and humiliation. Freedom from your family's interference. Protection. Resources. Whatever you want, I will give it to you." Anna felt her heart race. "And when you find this woman? When you no longer need me? You will be free to live however you choose, with all the wealth and protection I can offer. Your child will be recognized as my heir, which means he will have every opportunity any noble could have." It was too tempting. Freedom, security. a life far from shame and judgment. Anna looked down at her belly, at the baby growing inside her. She thought of her father, his fury, his disappointment. She thought of Ophelia and Sabrina, the way they treated her. She thought of the life waiting for her, a life of disgrace, of humiliation, of perhaps being forced to marry some old man willing to accept a ruined woman. Or she could have a chance, one single chance to change everything. "All right," she said, lifting her eyes to his. "I accept." Something flickered in Henry's eyes. Relief? Surprise? "Are you sure?" "No," Anna admitted. "I have nothing to lose." Henry nodded slowly. "Then it's done." He held his hand out again, and this time Anna took it without hesitation. "There is something you need to know," Henry said, his voice low. "When we walk out of here, everyone will believe this baby is mine. Everyone will believe you are my future queen. You need to act like it." Anna swallowed hard. "I don't know how to act like a queen. Just stay at my side. Let me handle the rest." He guided her back to the door, but before opening it, he stopped and looked at her again. "Anna?" "Yes?" "Thank you. For trusting me." She didn't know what to say, so she only nodded. Henry opened the door, and the two of them returned to the ballroom. The room erupted in whispers the moment they reappeared. Henry kept Anna's hand firmly in his as he walked straight to the center of the hall, where the elders and the most important nobles were gathered. Lord Edmund, Anna's father, stood among them, his face pale with shock. Beside him, Ophelia and Sabrina watched with expressions of pure disbelief. Henry stopped in front of them all, his presence dominating the space. "I have an announcement to make," he said, his voice echoing through the silent hall. Everyone stopped talking. Every head turned toward him. Henry pulled Anna closer, placing a protective hand at her waist. "Lady Anna is carrying my child," he declared, his voice clear and steady. "And soon, she will be my queen." The silence that followed was absolute. Then the chaos began. "What? That's impossible. The Alpha King has an heir? But when did this happen?" The elders exchanged looks, clearly stunned. One of them, an old man with a long white beard, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, this is unexpected." "It is the truth," Henry said without hesitation. "The child she carries is mine. And I intend to marry her." Anna felt her legs weaken, but Henry's hand at her waist kept her steady. Sabrina took a step forward, her face contorted with barely contained fury. "This can't be right. Anna never mentioned—" "Because it was a private matter." Henry cut her off, his voice cold. "And now it isn't." Ophelia looked between Anna and the king, her face a mask of shock and anger. Lord Edmund, on the other hand, seemed unsure whether to laugh or cry. His daughter, his ruined daughter, was about to become queen. One of the elders cleared his throat, drawing attention. "Your Majesty, if this is true, then the kingdom has an heir. The succession is secured." "Exactly," Henry said. "But we still need a proper marriage, a ceremony that—" "It will happen in due time," Henry interrupted. "Lady Anna is in the final stages of pregnancy. I will not subject her to the stress of wedding preparations now. We will wait until after the baby is born." The elder looked as though he wanted to argue, but another placed a hand on his shoulder. "That is acceptable. What matters is that the heir is on the way." Henry nodded, clearly satisfied. Then he turned to Anna, his blue eyes meeting hers. "Are you all right?" he asked softly, only for her to hear. Anna didn't know if she was. She didn't know if she could process everything that had just happened, but she nodded anyway. "I am." Henry smiled faintly. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. "Then let's give them a reason to believe." And then, in front of everyone, he bent and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. The gesture was simple, but heavy with meaning. Anna closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of that touch, and for a moment, just a moment, she let herself believe it was real. When she opened her eyes again, the entire room was watching her. Some faces were shocked, others jealous, others disbelieving. But it didn't matter, because for the first time in 8 months, Anna felt that maybe, just maybe, her life was not completely ruined. Anna didn't sleep that night. How could she? Her world had been turned upside down in a matter of hours. She lay in one of the castle's suites, a suite that, they had told her, was hers now, staring up at the ornate ceiling as she tried to process everything that had happened. I'm going to be queen. The phrase echoed in her mind, but none of it felt real. The baby shifted inside her, a constant reminder that, real or not, this was happening. She ran a hand over her belly, feeling the gentle kicks. What have we done? She whispered to the baby. What kind of agreement have I gotten us into? But even as she asked, she knew the answer. She had done what she needed to do. She had secured a future for her child. A future that didn't involve shame, poverty, or being handed off to some random old man. Still, something gnawed at her. He's looking for another woman. Henry had been clear about that. He wanted to find someone he had met, someone who had marked him in a way Anna couldn't fully understand. And when he found her, their arrangement would end. Anna closed her eyes, trying to ignore the strange ache in her chest. She shouldn't care. This was just an arrangement, a marriage of convenience. So why did it hurt to think about? On the other side of the castle, Henry couldn't sleep either. He was in his study, sitting in front of the fireplace, a glass of wine in his hand. Marcus was with him, seated in the chair beside him, watching his friend with concern. You really did it, Marcus said, breaking the silence. You declared in front of the entire court that her child is yours. Henry took a sip of wine. I did what was necessary. Necessary? Marcus leaned forward. Henry, you just claimed a child that isn't yours. You're going to marry a woman you barely know. How is that necessary? Henry stared at the dancing flames in the hearth. Because now they'll leave me alone. Now I have an heir. I have a fiancé. And it buys me time. Time for what? To search for a ghost of a woman? Henry turned to look at him, his blue eyes bright with determination. She isn't a ghost. She's real. And I'm going to find her. Marcus sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. And when you find her, what will you do with Lady Anna? Henry hesitated. It was a question he had asked himself more than once since making the announcement. I will take care of her. I gave my word. She will have everything I promised. But what about the baby? You declared that baby as your heir. If you later marry another woman and have true children... I know. Henry cut him off. I know the complications. I'll deal with them when the time comes. Marcus shook his head. You're playing with fire. Maybe. Henry finished the wine and set the glass on the table. But it's the fire I chose. Marcus was quiet for a moment, then stood. Have you at least spoken to her? To Lady Anna? Beyond the arrangement? Henry frowned. What do you mean? I mean, you dragged her into this without really knowing her. You know nothing about her, who she is, what she likes, what scares her. And now she's going to be your wife, even if only temporarily. Henry didn't answer. Marcus was right, but he didn't know what to say. Maybe, Marcus continued, walking toward the door, you should try to get to know her. Who knows, it might make all of this less... complicated. He left, leaving Henry alone with his thoughts. The next morning, Anna was awakened by soft knocks at the door. Come in, she said, sitting up in bed. A maid entered carrying a tray of breakfast. She made a deep curtsy, something Anna had never seen anyone do for her before. Good morning, milady, the maid said, her voice respectful. I brought your breakfast. Anna blinked, still trying to get used to the treatment. Thank you. The maid set the tray on the table by the window and then turned, hesitant. Milady, if I may ask, is there anything else you need? Clothes? A bath? His Majesty asked that we attend to every detail. His Majesty. Anna's stomach flipped. He really was taking this seriously. I think I'm fine for now. Thank you. The maid curtsied again and left. Anna rose slowly and walked to the window. From there she could see the castle gardens stretching as far as the eye could reach. It was beautiful, but it was also lonely. She ate alone, dressed alone, and when she finally left the room, she realized she didn't know where to go. The castle was immense, and she didn't know anyone there. She was walking through the corridors when she heard voices coming from a nearby room. She stopped, recognizing one of them. It was Henry. Keep searching, he was saying. Someone has to know something. A maid, a guard, anyone who was in the castle that night. Your Majesty, we've already questioned everyone, Marcus's voice replied. No one saw anything, or if they did, they aren't talking. Then ask again. Offer rewards. Do whatever it takes. Anna felt her chest tighten. Later that day, Anna was in the gardens when Henry found her. She was sitting on a stone bench beneath the shade of an ancient tree, watching the birds. The afternoon sun cast a golden light over everything, and for the first time in months, Anna felt almost at peace. Lady Anna. She turned and found Henry standing a few steps away. He was dressed more casually than the night before. No formal tunic, just a simple shirt and dark trousers. Even so, his presence was impossible to ignore. Your Majesty, Anna said, starting to rise. No, please stay seated, Henry said, coming closer. May I join you? Anna nodded, surprised. Henry sat beside her on the bench, keeping a respectful distance. For a moment, neither of them said anything. How are you feeling? He asked at last. Anna looked at him, trying to read the expression on his face. Confused. She hesitated, then decided to be honest. Lost. Henry nodded, as if he understood. I can imagine this must be very difficult for you. It all feels so unreal, Anna admitted. Yesterday I was the ruined woman no one wanted near them. Today I'm the future queen. I don't know how to process that. You don't have to process everything at once, Henry said, his voice gentle. Just take it one day at a time. Anna glanced at him from the side, studying his profile. There was something about him that made her curious, a contradiction. He was the Alpha King, feared and respected. But in that moment, sitting beside her, he seemed almost human. May I ask you a question? Anna asked. Of course. Why did you really do this? And don't tell me it was only to buy time with the elders. There were other ways. Henry fell silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. When I heard those women talking about you yesterday, the cruelty in their words, the way they judged you without knowing anything about you, something in me reacted. He turned to look at her. No one deserves to be treated that way, especially not while carrying a child. Something stirred in Anna's chest. Empathy. He felt empathy for me. Thank you, she said softly. For that. For giving me a way out. Henry nodded. But you gave me a way out too. So I suppose we're even. A comfortable silence settled between them. Anna looked out over the gardens, watching the flowers sway in the breeze. The woman you're looking for, she said suddenly, not looking at him. You must have very strong feelings for her. Henry didn't answer right away. When Anna finally dared to look at him, she saw he was staring off into the distance, lost in thought. I don't know what I feel, he admitted. I only know that I need to find her. Anna felt that strange pinch again. Jealousy? No. It couldn't be jealousy. She barely knew this man. "And if you never find her?" she asked, her voice nearly a whisper. Henry turned to look her in the eyes. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life searching." The intensity in his blue eyes made Anna look away. There was something there. Something that made her want to... What? What do I want? She didn't know. "I should go," Anna said suddenly, standing. "It's getting late." Henry stood as well. "Anna, wait." She stopped and turned to face him. "I want you to know," he said, "that regardless of this arrangement, I will protect you, you and your child. No one will hurt you. You have my word." Anna felt tears threaten to rise, but she held them back. "Thank you," she managed. She turned and began walking back toward the castle, feeling his gaze on her back with every step. In the days that followed, Anna began to settle into the castle. She had her own quarters, her own staff of maids, and access to anything she could possibly need. It was a life of luxury she had never imagined. But it was also lonely. Henry was busy with the affairs of the kingdom, and when he wasn't, he was with Marcus, continuing the search for the mysterious woman. Anna saw him occasionally during meals or passing in the corridors, but they rarely spoke. It was during one of those meals that something changed. Anna was dining alone in her quarters when she heard knocks at the door. She opened it, expecting to find a maid, but instead, she found Henry. "Your Majesty," she said, surprised. "Did something happen?" "No, I just..." He hesitated, as if he weren't sure what to say. "Do you always eat alone?" Anna blinked. "Yes, I assumed you would prefer it that way." Henry frowned. "Why would I prefer that?" "Because..." Anna didn't know how to answer. "Because this is only an arrangement. It isn't real." Henry was silent for a moment, then let out a breath. "It may not be real, but that doesn't mean you have to be isolated." He took a step back. "Tomorrow, have dinner with me. In the main hall." Anna felt her heart race. "Are you sure?" "I am." He started to walk away, then stopped and looked back. "And Anna, stop calling me Your Majesty when we're alone. My name is Henry." And then he was gone, leaving Anna alone with her heart hammering in her chest. Dinner the next day was strange. Anna sat at the great table in the main hall, with Henry at the head. Marcus was there too, along with a few other members of the court, but the stares were inevitable. Everyone watched Anna, evaluating, judging. Henry noticed. "Is there a problem?" he asked aloud, making everyone at the table turn toward him. The silence was absolute. "Because if anyone has something to say about my future queen," Henry continued, his voice cold, "I suggest you say it now." No one said a word. Henry returned his attention to the food, and gradually the conversations around the table resumed. Anna looked at him, feeling something warm spread through her chest. He defended me. Throughout dinner, Henry made a point of including her in the conversations, asking her opinion about matters of the kingdom, making the others treat her with respect as well. And Anna realized something. She was starting to like him. The next day, Anna was in her quarters when she heard knocks at the door. She opened it, surprised to find Ophelia and Sabrina on the other side. "Dearest Anna," Ophelia exclaimed with a smile too wide to be genuine. "We hope this isn't a bad time. We wanted to come visit you." Anna hesitated, but she couldn't refuse them without seeming rude. "Of course. Come in." Sabrina stepped in first, her eyes sweeping over the luxurious room with an expression Anna couldn't quite read. "Envy? Curiosity?" "Such wonderful accommodations," Sabrina said, lightly touching the velvet drapes. "You must feel as if you're living a dream." "It's different," Anna replied, keeping her guard up. Ophelia sat in one of the chairs, smoothing her skirt with calculated care. "We're so happy for you, dear. Who would have thought everything would work out so beautifully?" She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Although I must admit, It was all very sudden. The king never mentioned anything about the two of you. Alarm rang in Anna's mind. They're suspicious. It was private, Anna said, choosing her words carefully. It wasn't meant to be public yet. Of course, Ophelia agreed, but there was something sharp in her tone. But it must have been hard to keep such a big secret, especially when you were so lost, when you didn't even know who the father was. The silence that followed was tense. Things aren't always what they seem, Anna said at last. Sabrina wandered a few steps around the room, examining everything with exaggerated attention. And the wedding? Have you set a date yet? She asked, her tone too casual. Not yet. We're waiting until after the baby is born. How convenient, Sabrina murmured, almost to herself. Ophelia rose, smoothing her dress. Well, we don't want to take up your time, dear. We just wanted to come show our support. After all, we're family, aren't we? Yes, Anna said, not believing a single word of it. Oh, and Anna? Ophelia paused at the door, turning back with a sweet smile. If you need anything, any advice on how to handle this whole new situation, we're here. We know how complicated court life can be. Thank you, Anna replied, eager for them to leave. When they finally did, Anna closed the door and exhaled. Something about that visit was wrong. The way Ophelia asked questions. The way Sabrina inspected everything. They hadn't come just to see her. They're investigating. Later that night, Anna was getting ready for bed when she heard voices in the corridor. She recognized them immediately. Ophelia and Sabrina were still in the castle. Anna cracked the door open and saw the two of them speaking in low voices near the staircase. Sabrina kept looking around as if searching for someone. Did you see how she hesitated when I asked about the wedding? Sabrina was saying. She's hiding something. Of course she is, Ophelia replied, her tone conspiratorial. It's all a farce. The king is only using Anna to buy time. He doesn't even know her. And when he gets tired of her, Sabrina added, venom in her voice, Anna will go back to being nothing. That gives us an opportunity. Exactly. You need to stay close to him. Find ways to be in the same rooms. Show him what he really should have. Ophelia touched her daughter's arm. Once he realizes he could have something better, he'll get rid of Anna. Sabrina finished, a cruel smile on her lips. Anna closed the door silently, her chest tightening. They're right. It's all temporary, and they know it. So why did it hurt so much to hear it? She lay down on the bed, resting a hand on her belly. Don't worry, she whispered to the baby. No matter what happens, I will protect you. But even as she said it, one question kept circling in her mind. And who will protect me? The days that followed in the castle passed in a strange haze for Anna. She was slowly getting used to the routine. But that didn't mean she felt comfortable, especially not when Ophelia and Sabrina had begun appearing with alarming frequency. They always came with sweet smiles and kind words. But Anna knew those smiles. She knew the poison hidden behind them. Anna, dear, we heard there will be a dinner tonight, Sabrina said, her eyes gleaming. With the king and several members of the court. How exciting. Yes, Anna replied without enthusiasm. You must be so happy, Ophelia added, taking a sip of tea. Having the king so close. Although I must say he seems very busy lately. Have the two of you been spending time together? The question was far too innocent to be genuine. Enough, Anna said. Sabrina smiled, but there was something sharp in that smile. Well, I'm sure tonight will be special. After all, it's important to keep the king's attention, isn't it? Especially when there are so many distractions around. Anna felt her stomach twist, but she didn't take the bait. When they finally left, Anna remained alone, staring at the teacup in her hands. What are they planning? Night came far too quickly. The dinner was held in one of the smaller halls of the castle, more intimate than the grand banquets, yet still formal enough to make Anna nervous. She wore a dark blue dress the maids had chosen for her, pinned her hair into a loose bun, and descended the stairs with her heart pounding. When she entered the hall, she immediately looked for Henry. He was near the fireplace, speaking with Marcus and a few nobles. He wore a black tunic with gold detailing, and even from a distance his presence dominated the room. When his eyes met hers, something passed between them, something that made the air feel heavier. Henry gave a slight nod, an almost imperceptible gesture, but Anna felt heat rise along her neck. "Lady Anna." Sabrina's voice cut through the moment. She appeared at Anna's side, smiling broadly. "You look beautiful tonight." "Thank you," Anna murmured. Sabrina guided her toward the table, but her eyes never left Henry. Anna noticed. She noticed the way Sabrina positioned herself strategically, the way she laughed a little too loudly, the way she touched the arms of the men around her to draw attention. And it worked. Some nobles looked at her with admiration. Dinner began, and Anna found herself seated far from Henry, surrounded by people she barely knew. Ophelia and Sabrina, however, had managed to secure seats closer to the king. Anna watched from afar, feeling something uncomfortable tighten in her chest, every time Sabrina leaned toward Henry, every time she laughed at something he said. He's not paying attention to her, Anna tried to convince herself. He's just being polite. But it still hurt to watch. On the other side of the table, Henry was growing increasingly irritated. He had noticed Sabrina the moment she entered the hall. It was impossible not to, considering she made a point of always staying within his line of sight. Every loud laugh, every accidental touch on his arm, every look that lingered a second longer than it should have. It was exhausting. "Your Majesty," Sabrina said, leaning slightly toward him. "Your glass is empty. Allow me." Before Henry could refuse, she had already taken the wine jug and refilled his glass. "Thank you," Henry said automatically. Sabrina smiled, her eyes shining with something Henry couldn't quite identify. Dinner continued, but Henry barely touched his food. His gaze kept drifting back to Anna, seated across the hall. She looked quiet, almost withdrawn, her hands resting on her belly as she listened politely to the conversations around her. He wanted to go to her. He wanted to... What do I want? The question troubled him more than it should have. That was when the musicians began to play, and Sabrina made her move. She stood and walked around the table until she stopped beside Henry. He smelled her strong perfume before he even saw her. "Your Majesty," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "Perhaps we could speak somewhere more. Private? There is something I'd like to discuss with you." Henry looked at her, seeing the clear intention in her eyes. "No," he said, his voice firm but polite. "I don't believe that would be appropriate." Sabrina blinked, clearly taken aback. "But I only..." "Lady Sabrina," Henry interrupted, standing. "I appreciate the interest, but you need to understand something. I am committed to Lady Anna, and I have no intention of changing that." Sabrina's face flushed red. A few nearby nobles had heard and turned to watch. I wasn't suggesting," she stammered. "I'm sure you weren't," Henry said coolly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I would like to be alone." He left the hall before she could respond, ignoring the surprised looks around him. But Henry wasn't alone for long. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He went straight to his study, but the moment he arrived, dizziness hit him. The walls seemed to shift, the floor swaying beneath his feet. Damn it. He braced himself against the desk, breathing deeply. That sensation. He knew it. The wine. He hadn't drunk much. Only a sip before realizing something was off. But it had been enough. Moon herbs. It had to be. Henry tried to focus, tried to maintain control, but his body wouldn't obey. He needed help. He needed someone he trusted. Anna. It didn't make sense. He should have called Marcus or one of the guards. but his foggy mind could think of only one person. Anna. He stumbled out of the study, leaning against the walls as he made his way down the corridors. A few guards looked at him with concern, but he waved them off. When he finally reached Anna's door, he had to brace himself against the frame to keep from falling. He knocked. Once. Twice. The door opened, and Anna appeared, her eyes widening when she saw him. "Henry," she said, alarmed. "What happened?" He tried to answer, but the words came out tangled. "Anna, help me. I can't stand properly." Anna didn't hesitate. She slipped his arm over her shoulders, surprisingly strong for someone 8 months pregnant, and pulled him inside the room. "What did you drink?" she asked, guiding him to the bed. "Wine," Henry managed. "There was something... herbs." Anna froze. "Moon herbs?" Henry nodded, letting himself sink onto the edge of the bed. The room spun around him. "Sabrina," he murmured. "I think she put something in my glass." Anna felt anger surge in her chest, but pushed it aside. This wasn't the moment for that. "Lie down," she said, helping him recline. "You need to let it pass." Henry obeyed, but when Anna started to step away, he caught her wrist. "Don't go," he said, his voice sounding more vulnerable than he intended. "Please." Anna looked at his hand gripping hers, then at his face. His blue eyes were unfocused, but there was something in them that made her heart ache. "I'm not going anywhere," she said softly. She pulled a chair close to the bed and sat beside him. Henry didn't release her hand. "Anna," he said, his eyes beginning to close. Shh, she interrupted. "Rest. I'm here." He fell asleep, still holding her hand. Anna stayed there, watching him. The Alpha King, always so strong, so controlled, now vulnerable in her bed. She didn't know how long she sat there. Hours passed, and at some point, exhaustion overcame her. She lay down beside him, just for a moment, just to rest her eyes. And she fell asleep. Anna woke to sunlight streaming through the windows. It took a few seconds to realize where she was. It took a few more to realize she wasn't alone. She was spooned against Henry. His arm was wrapped around her waist, his hand resting protectively over her belly. His body was pressed against her back, warm and solid. She could feel his breath against her neck. Anna froze. Gods, what do I do? Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. She should move. She should pull away. But she couldn't. She felt Henry stir behind her, his breathing changing. He was waking up. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Both completely still, completely aware of where they were. Then Henry pulled away abruptly. Anna turned to find him sitting on the edge of the bed, running his hands over his face. He began, his voice hoarse. "Anna, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have..." "You were under the influence of the herbs," Anna interrupted, sitting up as well. "It wasn't your fault." Henry turned to look at her, and Anna saw something in his eyes. Confusion. Conflict. And something else she couldn't name. "I need to go," he said suddenly, standing. "Henry? I'm sorry," he said again, and then he left, closing the door behind him. Anna was left alone in the room, the warmth of his body still lingering in the sheets. What just happened? Henry spent the next days avoiding Anna. It wasn't intentional. At least that's what he told himself. He was busy. He had matters of the kingdom to resolve. Meetings with the elders, security concerns. But the truth was, he didn't know how to face her. Not after waking with her in his arms and feeling that it was exactly where she belonged. That was wrong. He had a plan, an arrangement. He was searching for someone else. He shouldn't be thinking about Anna like that. But he was, and it terrified him. "You're avoiding her," Marcus said, entering Henry's study without knocking. Henry looked up from the documents he was pretending to read. I'm not avoiding anyone. Liar, Marcus said, sitting down. You barely look at her during meals. You leave the hall when she enters. What happened? Henry didn't answer. Marcus sighed. Look, I don't know what's going on in your head, but whatever it is, you're hurting her. She doesn't understand why you're acting like this. I'm not trying to hurt her. Then stop acting like a coward and talk to her. Henry glared at his friend. Since when do you care so much about Lady Anna? Marcus frowned. Always. Anna is... He hesitated. She's special. She always has been. Something tightened inside Henry. Something dangerously close to jealousy. What do you mean, always has been? Marcus noticed Henry's tone and raised his hands. Easy. It's not what you're thinking. Then what is it? Marcus let out a long sigh. Anna and I, we knew each other as children. We grew up in the same village. I always looked after her like she was my younger sister. Henry blinked, processing the information. You've known each other since childhood? Yes, I hadn't seen her in years. I didn't recognize her at the ball because of, well, everything. The pregnancy, the different clothes, time. And she didn't recognize me right away because I've changed a lot. Beard, scars, muscles. Marcus smiled faintly. But when we finally recognized each other, it felt like coming home. You never mentioned this. It didn't seem relevant. Marcus leaned forward. But now it does, considering you're acting like a jealous idiot. Henry opened his mouth to protest, but Marcus cut him off. Don't deny it. I know you, Henry. And whatever you're feeling for Anna, it's real. So stop fighting it. Marcus left, leaving Henry alone with thoughts he didn't want to have. That afternoon, Henry decided to walk through the gardens to clear his head. That's when he saw them. Anna and Marcus, sitting on a bench beneath a tree, talking and laughing. Marcus said something that made Anna burst into laughter. A genuine, free laugh Henry rarely heard. Then Marcus touched her arm, and Henry saw red. He knew Marcus had explained. He knew they were just friends. But seeing them together, seeing Anna happy with someone else when she barely looked at him lately. Before he could stop himself, Henry was already walking toward them. Lady Anna, he said, his voice colder than he intended. May I speak with you? In private. Anna looked at him, surprised. Of course. Marcus stood, giving Henry a warning look before leaving. Anna remained seated, looking at Henry with a cautious expression. What do you want to talk about? Henry didn't know. He hadn't planned this. He only knew that he needed. What do I need? You and Marcus seem very close, he said, hating how it sounded. Anna frowned. We are. He's my childhood friend. He told me. Then what's the problem? Henry didn't know how to answer. He couldn't say I'm jealous because it didn't make sense. He had no right to be jealous. Just be careful, he said at last. Anna stood, her eyes flashing with anger. Careful? With Marcus? He's the only person in this castle who truly cares about me. I care, Henry said before he could stop himself. Anna laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You care? You barely look at me anymore. You avoid me like I have some disease. And now you come here telling me to be careful with my childhood friend? Anna. No, she interrupted. You don't have the right. This is just an arrangement, remember? You're looking for someone else. So don't come here acting like you have any claim over me. She started to walk away, but Henry grabbed her arm. And what about Sabrina? He said, his own anger rising now. You think I don't see the way you look when she's around? Anna turned to face him. Because she's constantly trying to seduce you, and you... I what? Henry stepped closer. You think I want her attention? You think I gave her any reason to believe I'm interested? I don't know, Anna shouted. I don't know because you don't talk to me. You avoid me, keep searching for some mysterious woman, and I'm here, carrying a child, trapped in an arrangement that... She stopped, the words dying in her throat. That what? Henry pressed, so close now that Anna could feel the heat radiating from him. That is killing me, Anna whispered. The silence that followed was absolute. They were so close, so dangerously close. Henry looked at her lips. Anna saw it. And when their eyes met again, something between them broke. Henry pulled her to him, and Anna didn't resist. The kiss was explosive. It was desperate, intense, devastating. As if everything they had been holding back for weeks erupted all at once. Anna clung to him, her fingers threading into his hair. Henry held her as if she might disappear if he let go. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathless. Henry rested his forehead against hers, closing his eyes. This kiss, he whispered, his voice rough. It's so hypnotizing. Anna felt tears burn her eyes, because she knew what that meant to him. She knew he was comparing. What if I'm not enough? She stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself. Henry, No, he said, opening his eyes. Don't say anything. I need to think. And then, for the second time, he left her alone. Anna remained there in the garden, touching her own lips. That kiss had changed everything, and she didn't know whether it was for better or for worse. The next morning, Henry grew distant again. Anna saw him during meals, surrounded by nobles and advisors. Their eyes met sometimes, and something passed between them. Something intense, unresolved. But he never approached, and it was tearing Anna apart from the inside. She ran her hands over her belly, feeling the baby kick. It wouldn't be long now. Maybe days. And then what? Would the arrangement end? Would Henry find his mysterious woman and Anna would go back to being no one? But he kissed me. That meant something. Or did it? Anna was lost in thought when Marcus appeared at the door to her chambers. May I come in? He asked. Of course. Marcus stepped inside, closing the door behind him. His face was serious. I need to tell you something. Anna sat down, her heart racing. What happened? Henry asked me to intensify the search, Marcus said, sitting beside her. For the woman from that night. He's obsessed, Anna. More than ever. Anna's chest tightened. Why now? Marcus hesitated. I think the kiss confused him. He's trying to understand what he feels, and he's looking for answers in the wrong place. Anna closed her eyes, feeling tears threaten to fall. He's never going to stop looking for her, is he? I don't know, Marcus admitted. But Anna, you need to know that. I think you matter to him more than he realizes. It doesn't matter, Anna whispered. If he can't see that on his own, then it doesn't matter. Marcus touched her hand gently. Give him time. Henry is stubborn, but he isn't stupid. On the other side of the castle, Henry was in his study with Marcus, reviewing reports. Nothing? He asked, frustrated. Not a single lead? Nothing concrete, Marcus replied. But Henry, I have to ask, why is this so important now? You have Anna. She's here. She's real. And from what I can see, you feel something for her. Henry dragged his hands through his hair. I need to know who she was. I need to understand why that night was so different. And if you never find out? Henry didn't answer. Marcus sighed. You're searching for something that may not exist anymore. Or worse, you're searching for something that's right in front of you, and you can't see it. What does that mean? It means maybe you should stop living in the past and start looking at the present. Marcus left, and Henry remained alone, the words echoing in his mind. Look at the present. Anna was the present. Anna, with her honest eyes and her rare smile. Anna, carrying a child and facing everything with a courage he could only admire. Anna, whose kiss had shaken him just as much as the one from the night he couldn't forget. Wait. Henry froze, the realization beginning to take shape. No. It can't be. But what if it was? Meanwhile, in another part of the castle, Ophelia and Sabrina were having a very different conversation. He's looking for someone, Sabrina said, pacing. I heard Marcus and the king talking. A woman from a single night months ago. Ophelia leaned forward, interested. Go on? If we can convince him that it was me, that I'm the woman he's searching for, he'll leave Anna. Ophelia finished, a cruel smile on her lips. And Anna? Sabrina smiled. Anna needs to disappear. At least for a while. Long enough for me to secure my place in the king's life. Ophelia nodded slowly. We need to start today. Sooner rather than later, before she has the baby. I know some people. Men who don't ask questions. For a price, they can take care of it. Don't let them kill her, Sabrina said quickly. Just keep her away. Once the king marries me, it won't matter what happens to her. Leave it to me. I'll handle it now, Ophelia said. Anna was walking through the gardens when she felt something was wrong. 2 men were following her, not castle guards, men she had never seen before. She quickened her pace, her heart pounding harder. Her heavy belly made it difficult to move fast. Lady Anna, one of the men called. We only want to talk. Anna started to run as best she could, but they were quicker. Strong hands grabbed her. She tried to scream, but a hand clamped over her mouth. Shh, the man whispered. It won't hurt. Just come with us quietly. Anna fought, desperate, but they were too strong. They dragged her out of the gardens, toward the stables. That was when she saw Marcus. Marcus! She managed to scream before the hand covered her mouth again. Marcus turned, his eyes widening as he saw Anna being dragged away. He ran, drawing his sword. Let her go! Now! The men hesitated, then one of them pulled a knife and pressed it to Anna's throat. One more step and she gets hurt. Marcus stopped, but he didn't lower his sword. You don't want to do this. Do you know who she is? We know exactly who she is, the man replied. And we were paid well to get her out of here. They dragged her to a horse and threw her over the saddle. Anna screamed again, but it was useless. Marcus ran after them, but they were already galloping away. He sprinted back to the castle, shouting for Henry. Henry was in the hall when he heard the shouts. He ran out and found Marcus panting, blood on his shirt. What happened? Anna, Marcus managed. They took Anna. Henry's world stopped. Who? Who took her? 2 men, not from here. They said they were paid. Marcus grabbed Henry's arm. Henry? She's close to having the baby. She can't. Henry didn't wait to hear the rest. He barked orders, summoned all the guards, had horses prepared. Find her, he roared. Turn over every damn stone in this kingdom until you do. Marcus touched his shoulder. We'll find her. I promise. Henry looked at his friend, and Marcus saw something in his eyes he had never seen before. Pure fear. I can't lose her, Henry whispered. Marcus, I can't. And in that moment, Henry understood. It didn't matter who that mysterious woman was. None of it mattered anymore. Because he was in love with Anna. Completely, irrevocably in love. And if something happened to her... Let's go, he said, mounting his horse. Now. Henry rode as he had never ridden before. Trees streaked by in blurs at his side. Wind sliced across his face. But none of it mattered. Only one thing mattered. Anna. Marcus was beside him, equally desperate. They followed tracks, questioned anyone who might have seen something. And finally, a peasant pointed toward the forest. 2 men passed through here with a woman. She looked pregnant. They headed to the old hunting cabin to the north. Henry didn't wait to hear anything else. As they rode, Marcus suddenly pulled on the reins. "Henry, wait!" Henry stopped, turning back, irritated. "What is it? We don't have time." Marcus was pale, as if he'd seen a ghost. "I know who she is." Henry went completely still. His heart thundered in his chest. "Who?" he asked, but his voice came out strange, because deep down he already knew. He already suspected. "The woman from that night, the one you've been searching for." Marcus swallowed hard. "Henry, it's Anna." Henry closed his eyes. It wasn't a surprise. Not really. Not after that kiss. Not after the way his body reacted near her. Not after all the small things that hadn't made sense until now. "I know," he said at last, opening his eyes. Marcus blinked, shocked. "You know? Since when?" "I suspected." Henry raked a hand through his hair, frustrated. "The kiss. It was exactly the same. The way she makes me feel. But I didn't want to believe it because it didn't make sense. How could she be the same woman if no one saw her? If no one knew?" "Because that night everyone drank too much," Marcus said quickly. "The royal wing of the castle was practically empty. Remember? All the servants, all the guards were focused on serving the guests in the main hall. The corridors in the royal wing were deserted." Henry nodded slowly, the pieces clicking into place. "And Anna barely remembers anything from that night. She was under the influence of the moon herb Sabrina certainly gave her. She once told me she couldn't remember properly, that everything was hazy." "Exactly," Marcus said. "And you were drunk too. Both of you were. That's why neither of you recognized each other afterward. That's why she didn't know it was you. That's why you didn't realize it was her." Something burst in Henry's chest. Relief. Joy. Absolute terror. "All this time," he whispered, "I was searching for someone who was right in front of me. Someone I was falling in love with again without even realizing it." "Yes," Marcus said gently. Henry looked toward the forest, where Anna was, alone, terrified, in labor. "So the baby," he started. "Is yours for real?" Marcus finished. "It always was, from the beginning." Henry felt tears burn his eyes. "I need to get to her. I need to tell her. I need to—" "Then let's go," Marcus said, mounting his horse again. Henry followed him, but this time it wasn't only desperation driving him. It was love. Love for the woman he had searched for months. A woman who had been there all along. A woman carrying his true child. Anna. It had always been Anna. It had to be Anna. Anna lay on the cold cabin floor, her hands clutching her belly as another contraction hit. "Please," she begged the men guarding her. "I need help. The baby is coming." The two men looked at each other, clearly panicking. "We weren't paid to deal with this," one of them said. "Then let me go." "We can't do that either." Another contraction came, stronger this time. Anna screamed, gripping the wooden floor. "Please, not now, not here, not alone." She thought of Henry. Of how she wanted him there. Of how, despite everything, he was the only person she wanted at her side in that moment. "I love you," she realized with painful clarity. "I fell in love with you and didn't even notice when it happened." Tears slid down her face as another contraction tore through her, and then she heard it. Horses, voices shouting, the sound of swords being drawn. The cabin door burst open. Henry stormed in like a tempest, his eyes sweeping the space until they found her on the floor. "Anna!" The two men tried to react, but they didn't stand a chance. Henry brought them down with brutal ease, Marcus taking care of anyone who tried to run. In seconds, it was over. Henry dropped to his knees beside Anna, his hands trembling as he touched her face. "Anna. Anna, look at me." She opened her eyes, tears spilling. "Henry? How did you—" Another contraction sliced through her and she screamed. Henry looked at Marcus, eyes wide. The baby is coming, now. Marcus nodded. I'll stand guard outside. You'll need privacy. He stepped out, closing the door. Henry turned back to Anna, removing his coat and placing it beneath her head. It's all right. It's all right. I'm here. I won't leave you. I don't know if I can do this. Anna sobbed. Henry held her face in both hands, forcing her to look at him. You can. You're the strongest woman I know. And I'm going to be here every second. She clung to him as another contraction rolled in. You didn't have to come, she said through clenched teeth. It's just an arrangement. You don't have to. Henry gripped her face with both hands again, making her meet his eyes. Stop talking nonsense, he said, his voice rough. You think I'd leave you here? You think I'd let you go through this alone? But you're looking for someone else. You said... Forget what I said. Henry cut her off. Listen, look at me. He waited until her eyes focused on his. There is no one else. There's nobody. There's only you. It was always you, Anna. I was just too much of an idiot to see it. Tears ran down her face. You don't have to say that just because... I love you, he said, firm, letting each word sink in. I love you in a way that scares me. When I thought I'd lost you, my world stopped. And the idea of living without you is unbearable. Anna sobbed, squeezing his hand. Henry. And yes, I came. He went on, his voice breaking. Of course I came. What kind of man would I be if I didn't? What kind of man would leave the woman he loves, the mother of his child, alone and afraid? He pressed his forehead to hers. You're mine, Anna. Truly mine. And I'm going to be here. Every second. She didn't have time to process the words because another contraction came. Stronger, more urgent. But even through the pain, she held his hand as if it were her only anchor. And it was. I need to push, she said, desperate. Then push. I'll hold you. The hours that followed blurred into pain, sweat, tears, and Henry's steady voice, guiding her, encouraging her, holding her. You're doing so well. Keep going, my love. I can't take it anymore. You can. For me. For our son. And finally, with one last scream that shredded her throat, Anna felt the baby leave her body. A cry filled the cabin. Henry wrapped the baby in his own coat, cleaning him gently before placing him in Anna's arms. It's a boy, he said, his voice breaking. Anna looked down at her son, perfect and small, wailing with all the strength in his lungs. He's perfect, she whispered. Henry froze, his eyes locked on the baby's shoulder. Anna, he said, his voice strange. May I see? She frowned but tilted the baby slightly. There, on the baby's right shoulder, was a birthmark. Small, shaped like a crescent moon. The Alpha King's mark. The mark only direct descendants of the royal bloodline carried. Henry touched the mark with trembling fingers. Gods, he's mine. Truly mine. Anna looked between the baby and Henry, confused. What do you mean? Henry sat down, pulling her gently into his arms, the baby between them. Anna, I need to tell you something. Something I only learned a few hours ago. She looked at him, waiting. The woman I was searching for. The woman from that night, 8 months ago. He touched her face tenderly. It was you. Anna blinked. What? That night, at the annual gathering, when you drank wine with herbs. When you bumped into someone. His voice was rough. It was me, Anna. I was the one who took you to that room. I was the one. Memories began to return to Anna. Fragmented, hazy, but there. Blue eyes. A deep voice. You need to drink water. Strong hands holding her. Girl, Don't say something like that to me here. You, she whispered. It was you all this time? Henry nodded, tears streaming down his face. I searched for you for months. I turned the kingdom inside out trying to find you, and you were right in front of me the whole time. He let out a laugh that sounded like joy and desperation twisted together. I fell in love with you twice, Anna. That night, when I didn't know who you were, and now, when I thought you were someone else. Anna shook her head, trying to take it in. I couldn't remember properly that day. Everything felt like a blur. The images were so confused, so broken. Her voice cracked. And after I found out I was pregnant, after everything I went through, the humiliations, the shame, I tried to forget. I chose not to keep trying to remember. It was easier to just leave it behind. Henry touched her face with a tenderness that made her cry even harder. Anna, I love you, he said, his voice steady and full of emotion. I love you with every part of who I am. He looked at the baby in her arms, then back into her eyes. And I love this boy. Our son. Our true son. His voice broke. The two of you are my family. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving that to you. Anna sobbed, clutching the baby to her chest. I don't know when it happened, but I love you too. Henry pulled her into his arms carefully, wrapping her and the baby in a protective embrace. Then marry me for real, Anna. Not for an arrangement. Marry me because you love me too. Because you want to build a life with me. Yes, she whispered against his chest. Yes. Henry kissed her again, deeper this time, sealing the promise. The baby cried between them, and they both laughed, pulling back to look at their son. We need to go back, Henry said at last. You need care, and we have some people to confront. Anna nodded, remembering Ophelia and Sabrina. They did this. They're the ones who had me kidnapped. I know, Henry said, his voice hardening. And they will pay. Their return to the castle was triumphant. Henry rode in holding Anna and the baby close against him, Marcus at his side. Guards rushed to help. Maids brought blankets and water. Fetch a doctor, Henry ordered. And bring Lady Ophelia and Lady Sabrina to the main hall. Now. While Anna was taken to her chambers to be examined, Henry went straight to the hall, the baby still in his arms. Ophelia and Sabrina were brought in, both pretending concern. Your Majesty, thank the gods, is Lady Anna all right? We were so worried when we heard— Silence, Henry roared. The hall fell absolutely quiet. You two. You orchestrated Anna's kidnapping. You hired men to take her. Also that— He looked at Sabrina with contempt. You could try to take her place. Sabrina went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Henry's voice thundered through the hall. Ophelia tried to protest, but Marcus entered, dragging one of the men who had kidnapped Anna. He confessed to everything, Marcus said. Who hired him, how much they paid, everything. Ophelia and Sabrina had nowhere left to run. Lord Edmund, who was present, seemed to age 10 years in an instant. Ophelia, he said, his voice breaking. You did this? To my daughter? I was protecting our family, Ophelia shouted. Anna doesn't deserve to be queen. Sabrina does. Enough, Henry said, his voice cold as ice. You are both banished from this kingdom. You have until dawn to leave. If you're still here after that, you will be imprisoned. No, Sabrina protested. You can't. I can, and I will. Henry stepped forward, the baby still in his arms. You almost killed Anna. You almost killed my son. He turned the baby slightly, showing the mark. Look, the Alpha King's mark. This baby is my rightful heir, and Anna is my rightful queen. And if either of you dares to question her again, it will be the last thing you ever do. Ophelia and Sabrina were dragged out, screaming and protesting. Lord Edmund approached Henry, tears in his eyes. Your Majesty, I didn't know. Please, believe me. I know, Henry said, gentler now. You are welcome to stay, to meet your grandson. But he looked toward where Ophelia and Sabrina had been taken, will never set foot here again. Edmund nodded, grateful. 3 days later, the castle was decorated for a celebration. Anna was in her chambers, the maids helping her into a white and gold gown. She was tired, still recovering from childbirth, but happy, happier than she had ever imagined was possible. The baby lay in a cradle beside her, sleeping peacefully. They had named him Edmund, in honor of his grandfather. A knock at the door made Anna turn. Henry entered, and the air left her lungs. He was dressed formally, in a black tunic with gold detailing, the crown on his head. He looked every inch the alpha king he was. But when he looked at Anna, his eyes softened. You look beautiful. Anna blushed. I'm still recovering. I don't exactly feel my best. Henry walked to her, taking her hands. You just brought our son into the world. You've never been more beautiful. He leaned in and kissed her softly. Ready? He asked. To marry you for real? Anna smiled. More than ready. The ceremony was held in the great hall, filled with nobles, elders, and people of the kingdom. Anna walked to the altar, her father at her side, bringing her to Henry. When their hands touched, it felt like an electric current. The priest spoke the traditional words, but Anna barely heard them. All she could see were Henry's blue eyes, looking at her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Do you accept this man as your husband, your alpha, your king? The priest asked. I do, Anna said, her voice steady. And do you accept this woman as your wife, your mate, your queen? Henry smiled. I do, today and always. Then, by the authority granted to me, I declare you husband and wife, king and queen. Henry didn't wait for permission. He pulled Anna to him and kissed her, deeply, passionately, before everyone. The hall erupted in applause and cheers. When they finally parted, Henry rested his forehead against hers. My queen, he whispered. My king, she replied. That night, after all the guests had left, Henry and Anna were in their chambers, the baby sleeping between them on the bed. Anna lay on her side, watching Edmund sleep, when she felt Henry wrap his arms around her from behind. What are you thinking about? He asked, kissing her shoulder. About how everything changed, she said. Months ago, I was ruined, hopeless. And now I'm queen. I have a son. I have you. You always had me, Henry said. From that first night, I was just too much of an idiot to realize it. Anna laughed softly, turning to face him. Then we were two idiots. Because I didn't realize either. Henry touched her face gently. You know what's funny? I spent months searching for you. And when I finally found you, I fell in love with you all over again, without even knowing you were the same person. Maybe it was destiny, Anna whispered. Maybe, Henry agreed. Or maybe you're simply impossible not to love. He kissed her, long and deep, sealing every promise they had made. When they parted, Anna rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. I love you, she said. And I love you, Henry replied. Today, tomorrow, and for all the days to come. And as the moon shone through the windows, casting silver light over the three of them, Anna knew she was finally home. Not in a castle, not in a kingdom, but in the arms of the man she loved, the man who had always been hers, and always would be.